Back to the interview.
You ready?
We got Cadell Cook virtually in the
Sir,
house, and
yes,
we're super
sir.
excited.
The
Accomplished
man,
writer,
made out.
filmmaker. Go ahead, Brooke. Give him the introduction, man.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, man. This is a man of the hour, Cadell Cook. You know, writer, screenwriter, director. Like you said,
All
like
around
audio,
filmmaker,
yeah, man.
sure.
The audio guru, just put it all together. You know what I'm saying? A Renaissance man, as it like pertains to that realm. And I mean, he be doing other things as well, like even on the music end as well. You know, like but yeah, man. Like I definitely crossed paths with Cadell Cook. You know, it's ironic how sometimes you just cross paths with individuals. I had went out to I think it was Hagerstown. There was a film festival. It was Hagerstown.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And yeah, in support of my boy Jay Sony, shout out to him. He had a short film that he was premiering there, so I wanted to support him. But in one of the rooms that we were in that were like premiering a lot of short films from a lot of collectives and artists and whatnot, one of them happened to be Cadell, and I think the whole cast happened to be down there too as well, and it was for 4 points. I think, and like that, like trust, there's like a lot of things that I liked from like the other projects in terms of like the color composition and all of that. But like 4 points, I was in it. Like I was like, oh shit, like is there another?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I
Where
was
can I
like,
see more of this?
Yeah, and I'm looking at the actors too. Like shout out Milan Perez. And shout out Michael too, and there's one other individual as well. He had the glasses. Maybe Cadell know what I'm talking about, but he was so funny as hell. Like I was laughing, I was curious, and all that. So then afterwards, I remember I definitely stuck around. Just I wanted to give him the flowers. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting to be so entertained by one of the productions. And then I even remember I gave my short little feedback. I know Cadell was like, yo, we trying to get some feedback real quick.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I gave that my little spiel on that. But yeah, it had started from there basically.
Let me
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask you, what led you to that point? What led you to that Hagerstown Film Festival?
Yeah.
Hagerstown Film Festival. How did you find yourself there?
Yeah, that was the Maryland International Film Festival. I think that's what it was. It was in Hagerstown.
Okay, and it was in
Yeah,
Hagerstown.
that's right.
Okay,
that's
cool.
right. So that was my third short film, my second one that I entered into film festivals. But it was, it takes a while to, get your feet wet and, kind of hone your craft or whatever. But that was the one that we put a lot of energy in, and, we got a lot of attention for. That was actually our first showing as well. That was our premiere. So to get there, I started in music, in school, and I played like 4 instruments. I majored in music in college. So that was my focus. And then after I got out of college, my emphasis was music recording technology. So I ended up working in post-production on the tech side of sound. And that's where I started sound design and stuff. I started working in post-production, started to help other people. When you work in sound, you're like the last stage of post-production. You're one of the last stages of creating the product. And when you're in that stage, you're fine-tuning the story. You're helping the story. If you're, a good sound designer, you get into the story. So something was brought to life in me. I've always written, like I said, I was in music. I've written songs and stuff like that. I've been a music producer. But the stories that I've always wanted to make, I wanted to be, more profound, I guess, or to just go deeper in the story. You can never do that really in a song, in a pop song. So I think I've always wanted to create this type of content, but I just always thought of myself as a musician. But it took me a while to get to the point to realize I'm really a creative. I'm not a musician. I'm a creative. I like to create things. It doesn't matter what it is. So first I wrote a book. I wrote a sci-fi book called Weepers. That's on Amazon. Sci-fi supernatural based in DC. And then I
When was that?
so what?
When was that?
Oh,
So when was this around?
Yeah, when was that?
writing a
book?
novel it's hard. But
That's crazy. That just shows that you're just a writer at heart. Like you can write songs, you can write novels, you can write movies.
Right,
Like
doesn't
you know
matter
what
the
I'm saying?
concept.
yeah, that took a few years actually. It took
Wow.
It took me about 3 years to write, to get to the point where I was happy with it, and then another year to edit and figure out the self-publishing process, whatever. So it took a few years because that was my first like big project. And then after that, I started to work on short films, and I met Milan Perez and I met Michael J. Patterson. Those are two of the actors that you saw in 4 Points. When I met them,
Right.
I realized that I had access to actors that could really execute, and then I started writing for them. And after a while, I got to 4 Points. Um, so that's how I got there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice. So I want to know what was the difference that you kind of felt as far as like writing for the different types of mediums. Like, what's the difference between How were you able to make the transition from writing music to writing films? Was there like a conscious thing that happened, or it's a seamless transition? What do you think?
You have to do a lot of research. You're either doing it on purpose or you're doing it just because you're absorbing the mediums. But um, music, came naturally because I listen to music all the time. So that format was just a, sort of a monkey see, monkey do. You copy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then, moving over to prose and writing novels, I had to read more, and I think the way that
Yeah.
my brain works, like my one like talent that everything is sort of anchored on, is my ability to copy what I observe. So that's how I learn music. I learn, I play by ear. I copy what I hear, and when I get the rhythm of a prose, the feel of writing prose is very musical. It's very rhythmic, and so that's why that came next. And then once you get into the structure of movie, you start to feel the rhythm of that. So I think that it's all sort of connected. There's some connective tissue in all storytelling. When it comes to rhythm, it's music. They call it rhythm, but in stories, it's called pace. So it's like
Yeah.
same same sort of stuff. But it's
Yeah.
all sort of
No, that's
connected. Once you find the connectivity, it's easy to transition, easier to transition.
No, it's
Yeah.
beautiful that you can have it from that type of scope because, like, kind of like what Mek was kind of even hinting at previously, it's like a lot of people will just view whatever role that is like, this is what I am. Like, it doesn't really transmute or it doesn't leak over, but like innately it does. But sometimes you have to actually try to focus on, like, how do you connect it to? So, like, what you had said too definitely resonates in terms of like when you had said like literally it's just basically what I observe, so I have to actually entrench myself in it in order to write the prose. I need to read more, so like I definitely understand that sentiment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have another
Okay.
question as far as like it pertains to your sound design work. How you said that you are really the last line of defense as far as putting the story together, like making it all come together. Can you explain how sound design does that? Because I have a sense of it, but I think a lot of people don't really understand how sound plays into what they see on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think sound is very important for this medium, for movie, for film, for TV. It's not just I think it like you don't. Good sound is sound that you don't notice. That's one of the reasons why people don't really
Yes,
understand it,
facts.
because when it's done well, you don't notice it. You just feel it.
You don't notice that it's there.
So an obvious example is an explosion, right? When someone films an explosion on set, it doesn't sound as good as you're used to hearing, because the microphones that are on set are designed to pick up dialogue usually. So whatever bleeds into those mics, if they're on a boom or if they're on a lav or something like that, they're designed to pick up sounds of dialogue, and they don't pick up the richness and the fullness and the width of an explosion. And usually those are mono sources. So you would what we do in sound design, we create we create what you see, but we create it in a way that is we enhance it, and we also work on the continuity of shots. So when you're changing angles and stuff, if you've ever edited anything, you hear on set if there's little differences in between the camera angles, in ambience, or in sound quality, we have to eliminate that so it doesn't feel like the sound is jumping with the camera, you know. So that's
Right.
one thing. So there's a lot of stuff that we do to sort of smooth out the experience, and there's a lot of stuff that we do to enhance the emotional moment. So it's all about knowing what the story is trying to do, supporting it, and making it seamless.
For sure, for sure. Rick, you got a question?
No, yeah, you can keep that shit rock.
Yeah. Okay.
That was,
Um.
that's like a master class, bro. I'm listening intently,
Yeah.
like word, word. So, all right, but no, actually, I do now.
Okay.
So how do you go about? So you saying like these mics are more like it's more efficient to actually capture the dialogue. So how would you go about actually capturing that explosion and then getting it to like fit what's going on the screen? Like,
Oh man, there's a lot of different techniques.
okay,
So one thing to know is you would either capture it in a stereo format or something even bigger, because now that there's 5.1, 7.1 Atmos is now a thing. There's different microphone systems to capture a big sound like that. But
right.
usually, when it comes to something that exists in a film, it's something that is layered. So you would probably get used as there'd be a mixture of some sounds that you get from a sound library that has been professionally recorded, and that might be the source might be an explosion. The source might be somebody
Right.
kicking an empty trash can. The source might be
Right.
a big
Right. Right.
mallet hitting a metal sheet, a metal sheet that might
Yeah, get
imitate the sound
creative.
of thunder. You've seen people like shake those, and it sounds like
Yeah.
thunder,
Right.
but it's not
Right.
really thunder.
I've seen like on Instagram, there's somebody that will like, they'll have like meats and they'll be smacking it.
Right.
Like they'll be in a studio just
That's right.
And it
using
really
stuff to
sounded
make
like some
all
shit.
kinds of crazy
That's right. That's
sounds.
right. For example, you're used to hearing the sound. Again, we have movie sounds in our heads because we don't really know what the sound of a bone breaking really sounds like. But
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
used to what
Right.
we're hearing in our heads is actually cold celery snapping, because that's what we've heard
Yeah.
in film
It's
is
like a
is the
crunch.
Fact.
crunch of celery or somebody punching cabbage or something. That's what we're used to hearing as bones breaking, but it's really just celery snapping. And
Word.
whenever you're hearing like that gushy, gross sound in horror, that's cold spaghetti. You know, so
Word. I'm really thinking about
so look, so if you want to create something that sounds
guts.
gross, go boil some spaghetti, put it in the fridge,
Yeah.
and then squish it around. That sounds like you mess with somebody's flesh and brains. It's gross.
Yo, that's crazy.
But there are, I mean, if you have a mind that's sort of aligned like that, you can associate common sounds with other sounds you can use later. I do it all the time. It's a sickness.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have another question as far as the writing goes. Um bro, like you're a really talented writer,
Thank
right?
you.
So, I mean, how was it like you were suppressing that? Or I guess my first question is how long was your I mean, I don't want to say was as if it's over, but like how long were you doing strictly sound design for movies before you got into I want to start creating my own movies?
Um, I start my first job in sound design. I started in 2004, and then I started writing around. Well, I started studying writing around
Hmm.
2010, and that's when I was working on my. I have a few short stories as well, so I did short stories and novels and prose first. But I would write when I was a kid, but I didn't really think of it as a thing. I would just write poetry
Hmm.
because I was a sad kid. so
I
so
hear
that was
that.
my method of coping with my sadness, you know. So
Yeah.
I've always kind of created. I've always been a writer, but I didn't really start to study it until maybe 6 or 7 years into my sound design.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what leads into my question or my original question, which is, um, was it something that you felt like you were suppressing during that whole time, or like do you feel like you were doing the sound design like I'm working this part so that I can get to the ultimate part, or you know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like
At first,
how did you make the
at
transition?
first, no, because I was just doing sound design, and on the side, I was still working in music. I was producing some local artists, so I was still being creative. That's what I mean. At
Hmm.
first, we are used to putting ourselves in boxes because that's what our society does. It's easy to label
Right.
something, and I thought of myself as a musician, but I'm not really a musician. I'm a creative. So whatever I'm
You're
creating is what
creative,
I'm
yeah.
creating.
for
So
sure.
I didn't feel suppressed at the time. I just didn't know that I was supposed to be writing. And in a way, the
Mm,
progression was helpful because now that I'm a writer, producer, director, and I do virtually all the post on most of my stuff. Some things I don't do the color correction because that my eyes don't do that. The color correction is hard.
mhm, mhm.
But I do most of the posts. Since I had that start, it's easy for me to either do all those elements or manage all those elements because I understand it with the
You
depth
understand
needed.
them.
I'm
Yeah.
not just walking in. Okay, make it sound good. Bye. No,
Yeah.
Right,
no one's gonna
right.
mix my stuff and leave out some stuff. I'm gonna be able to interpret it because I've been in those fields.
Yeah.
And
That's dope. Yeah.
I got a question too, because it's so funny. Sometimes, like, I've actually been on set with you, where you be like, I'm the sound guy. Like, why am I directing this? I'm the director. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
and I like, would you prefer, like, if you had like ideal circumstances, would you prefer to like outsource these different type of roles so you can solely focus on certain aspects, or do you enjoy like having the production where you do all these roles because you know that you're not necessarily sacrificing anything, how people would normally think, like, oh, when you're doing all these things then maybe you can't, but like I had just heard you, like, you know exactly what you're good at, and what, maybe, like, for instance, color correction, you're like, well, I'll let somebody else color correct it because I could do it if I had to do it, but like if we have a team and there's a collective, I know I can find somebody that's their
Yeah.
strength. So like, which roles do you prefer? Like when you go into a project, like, nah, this is what I would like to do,
Yeah.
like every
If
time.
it's a well, are we in a situation where money wasn't an issue, which
Mm.
Right,
is
right.
not ever going to happen. But um,
Right.
okay, so I would like to be the writer director and be if I were able to focus on while I'm on set, if I were able to focus on directing only, I believe
Hmm.
that it's possible that I would improve in that area. I'd be able to dig in a little bit more. I'd be able to think of maybe something a little
Right,
more innovative. Um,
right,
for the actors, for the camera department, so I would like to
right,
be able to experience the role of directing
right.
without having to wear two other hats,
Every,
But
hmm.
but again, the stage that we're at in the world of independent films, and the direction that the industry is going, the
Hmm.
industry seems to be has a less a production budget. Like the everything in the middle is going away. So you either have
Right.
$0 to work with, or you're Marvel and you got 100 million, because the stuff in the middle,
Right.
with the way that the math works, those don't go to the theaters anymore, so they don't get as much back on the back end from the public. So they're either thinking if you're producing a film or series just for streaming, then you're going to get less back on the back end, so you have to adjust your production up front, which means that less people have to do more jobs in order to execute. So it's like there's nothing in the middle anymore. So I don't know if
Right.
that role will ever, if it, how it will work, where I will be able to work just as a writer director. That won't take much, but I just need a little more funding
Right.
in order to execute my projects. But if I do get the funding to be able to step out of those roles, the project will be much stronger. So
Right.
I would like
Yeah.
to be in that
That's
position,
real.
but we're not yet. So, but we will be soon. We'll be very, very, very soon.
Yeah, actually, if I kind of want to touch on this aspect of
Business
it,
side of it.
because yeah, like even to get your film in a film festival, to get actors that you can pay to be in it, actors who have talent to be in it, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of money. So I want to know, how do you go about funding your films? How do you go about making a living for yourself off of your films, or as a writer? You know what I mean? Like, can you kind of demystify that process of like earning a living off of the creativity?
Well, that stage is still developing for me. So
Mm,
at this stage, I have a few different. I still wear a bunch of hats, but I have a few different things
yeah.
that I do to earn money. But in order to make money from your creative, it takes the type of effort that it can't really be quantified. Meaning that for 4 points for example, 4 points required a lot of my own personal funding. So that 4 Points was funded by me, and festivals and all that was done by me. So paying the actors, paying the crew, that was all from money that I had saved personally. And then
Yeah.
we got to the point where we're existing on Quelly TV, and we're on Tubi as well. So those are two different platforms that we're distributed on now for the public to access. Um, and getting money back to sort of break even is going to take a while, but you do so. So
Yeah.
at this stage, you caught me in the development stage. So at this stage, we're still creating content with a high quality, and we have to get it in the right places in order for the public to be able to access it in a way that we can also get funding from it. So that would mean that we have to break down what type of VOD works for us, whether it be AVOD, TVOD, or SVOD. I don't know if you guys know about that, but
Could you tell me
Yeah.
VOD? The acronym VOD?
VOD, yes, video on demand.
Oh,
VOD.
yeah, on
So
demand.
there's different levels of VOD for filmmakers. There's SVOD, SVOD, TVOD, AVOD. Hold on, what order? TVOD, SVOD, AVOD. That's the order. So TVOD is
Okay.
transactional video on demand. That transaction means that the customers will pay for it somehow, whether it be buying or renting. That's what
Okay.
iTunes and stuff like that is.
Mm.
So you would start with that because you can get more per eyeballs. You start with TVOD if possible, and then you would move to subscription. That's what SVOD is, subscription-based video on demand, which is Netflix and part of Amazon and Hulu. And
Okay.
then the final would be AVOD, which is advertisement video on demand. That's stuff like Tubi and stuff where
Mm.
the customers come to see it for free, but the advertisement is what pays the filmmaker in the production, right?
Okay.
Like a YouTube or something.
Well, YouTube kind of is, but if you
Mm.
get to the point where you can monetize, but since they changed the rules on
Oh yeah,
YouTube,
yeah, for sure.
everybody can't monetize now. You have to have a certain
Yeah, for sure.
subscription
That's
level,
that.
blah 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 blah. So there's different ways to present your content to the public to be able to get back some kind of money, but you sort of have to do a whole lot of research, a whole lot of guessing, in order to put your stuff in the right place to get the most amount back possible. So there's a formula
Hmm.
that's happening where you have to guesstimate what you can make on the back end, and that's all you would
Mm.
want to, you want to make sure you can at least break even with the production costs.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. So you said that we caught you in the development
Yeah,
stage of your next project. Can you kind of tell us what that development stage looks like? Like, what are you doing on a daily basis or weekly basis, or however often you're tapping in? You know what I mean? What is this process? What does this part of the process look like for you and your team?
man. Okay, so I'm developing a feature. I've written 5 feature screenplays. 2 of them are award winning, and
Killing.
Congrats,
uh,
crazy.
thank you. And so the next stage is to try to produce one. And I've written some of them just for this, with the story in mind. And I've written some of them with the story and production costs in mind so that I could execute it. So it'll be easier for me to raise
Mm.
money enough to execute it myself. So some of them I'm trying to option as a writer, and some of them I'm trying to produce myself. So at
Mm.
that stage, we're moving forward with a family Christmas drama, and the name is still flexible. So, but
Hmm.
we are at the stage of the script is already written. We're doing what's called breaking the script, and this is the very unsexy part of of making movies, the pre-production. So we're breaking the script, and that means that you go through each scene, and I write in Final Cut. I mean, Final Draft.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
screenplay software right
Yeah.
in Final Draft. In that Final Draft, you're able to do what's called tagging, and you can tag the characters and all the props and all the whatever location or set design that you need. So you tag those, and then you create a tag report. So it prints out all the props that you need per scene, per whatever, and that way,
Oh,
once you plan for
yeah.
that day,
You
Nice.
know everything that's
there
needed
it
to
is.
Nice.
make
There's
this
no
movie
guessing.
happen.
You have the list of what's needed. You go, okay, you're going to do scene 24, scene 50, and scene 68 because they're all in this location. So you need this list of props, blah
Mm.
blah blah. So it becomes less
Wow.
of a linear story and more of a checklist of things that you have to execute in order to film it.
Yeah.
That's called breaking the script. So we're breaking the script right now, so that I can build a super accurate production budget, and then we can start raising the money. And so that's what stage we're in. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, about how long would you say this stage lasts? Do you put a time limit on yourself to keep things moving forward, or do you like how do you work with time? I
That's a
guess.
really good question, man. I think everybody's different, and I think that I
Yeah.
am unique in that deadlines, personal deadlines, don't work for me. What I do is I just do as much as I can every day, and it gets done when it gets done. So some people say, okay, I need to make sure that I get this done by in a month in 30 days. But if I were to say that, that means that mentally I'm going to spread out stuff, and maybe I work a little bit
Yeah.
slower.
Right.
Like you might wait till day
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
26.
Well, I'm not really a procrastinator, but I will like work less per day if I think I have 30
Okay.
days, But if it's possible
Yeah,
for me to
yeah.
get it done in 22, I'd rather get it done in 22. So that's how I treat it. I just do as much as I can every day, and then when I'm done, I move to the next
Yeah.
step. So I don't know. We have planned that we're gonna film next um, next autumn, next fall
Yeah.
sometime. That's the sort of shaky, I mean, not shaky, but we don't have locations and cast yet, so we can't really put it in stone. But that's the goal. But if we don't make it, it's not because I wasn't trying as hard as I could, because I'm working, I'm
Right.
doing as much as I can every day. So that's just how I work.
Yeah.
But some people need deadlines. Whatever it is,
Well,
That's
however
for
you know
sure.
how
And
you work, you set it up how you work personally.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like there's no question with you with that because you've put out a lot of projects already.
right,
You know
right,
what I mean? So
facts,
it's
man.
like you're definitely the type of person that gets his projects done when he puts them, like when he puts them in motion. And I guess that even leads me to another question: is how do you? So movies definitely have like structures, like we talked about. There's definitely like the structure of a movie. How did you learn that so that your ideas can turn into like you have five features that you wrote? You know what I mean? Like how were you able to learn the movie structures, and can you even like go through what the structure of a movie looks like? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like what do you have to check off for yourself that like shows you that you have a feature on your
yeah.
hands?
I have been using the three act structure. That you can Google that. It's pretty simple, but
Yeah,
different
yeah.
people you use it differently. I guess that within the three act structure, some instructors, some books break the three act structures down into 15 beats. I think that's the Blake Snyder method. The guy who wrote Save the Cat.
Blake Snyder, he wrote Save
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Cat. Yeah.
So he has 15 beats in his, and then what's his name? Robert McKee wrote a book called Story, and he also does three act structure, but he's way looser with the whole concept of this has to happen on this page, this happen on this page. He's much more loose with it. But what I've done is I've read those two are sort of the extremes. I've sort of read those two, and what I did was instead of treating those like gospel, I took out the concept, the major concepts of the three act structure, which is in the first act, you set up the story world and your main characters. Then you define what they want and what the conflict is. Okay. Then there's an inciting incident that starts Act Two. Inciting meaning it starts the story engine going. So that's Act One. Act Two is you exploring the solution. The characters trying to solve things. There's a midpoint where something changes, and then you finish Act Two by exploring that. Act Three is where you conquer the conflict and resolve. So there's way more details in there that you could go into, but I stay at a really high level so that all my stories can feel different to me. I just make sure that I hit those big points. That you establish things, you start the conflict resolution process, you start the story. There's something in the middle that shifts the tone or shifts the
Shifts it.
progression, and that ups the tension and stuff. And then you confront the conflict, and then you resolve. So it's just I made it super simple. I make sure I hit those things.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I try to do when I'm writing is that if I'm writing a 90-page feature, I just need to make sure that an anchor that I'm looking for is that middle point. I want it to hit somewhere around page 45. If it's on 42, if it's on 49, it's fine. But somewhere around there, I like to make sure there's a point where things shift and things get more, tense or difficult or something.
Do you watch a lot of movies?
Got to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there anything that comes to mind
what's
that?
the last joint you watched?
Yeah.
What's the last movie you watched?
What's the last one I watched? I've been watching movies and series because
Okay.
in ABFF this year we have 2 series in ABFF, which is not very common. So I'm sort of
That's
preparing
dope, man.
for
That's
one of
dope.
those
Talk your
series to
stuff,
get
man.
picked up.
Hmm.
So one of those.
And that's the American Black Film
That's
Festival,
right.
right? Okay, dope,
Yeah,
dope,
yeah, yeah.
dope.
It's the big one. It's the big one. So we got 2 series in it, 2 web series, and one of them is called Perfect, and the other one is called Secondhand, and they're
Nice.
both sort of either family drama or romantic dramas, and I've been studying This Is Us because Perfect is sort of close to This Is Us,
Mhm.
and I've been
Yeah, this
studying
is
the
this is good,
patterns
man.
of that series and how they have series is writing a series is difficult because a feature is like the overall arc is just like this, but a series you have to do an arc per episode under the major arc. It's
For
crazy, bro.
sure.
Right.
There's so much.
Yeah,
It's like it's
Keep
so
them
many
tuned.
beats.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have
Every
to have an arc, a big old rainbow, and
almost
you
like
have
a
to have
hundred
little
times.
rainbows under the rainbow that go with the rainbow. So,
Yeah.
and then if you're being
Crazy, man.
sophisticated with it, you want to have character arcs for each character. So
Each
it's not just the
character.
plot
Right.
arcs; it's the character arc. All right, a lot of arcs.
Hmm.
So you have to.
A lot of
Damn.
arcs.
So
Hella
it's
arcs.
Arc
Yeah,
Matrix.
yeah, yeah. So you have to sort of you can't just write one episode of a season. You have to plan the whole season. Here's the problem.
Mm.
Here's the solution here's the big driving engine for the whole season, and then you have to have steps on
Mhm.
the way. So that's what I'm really
And then
studying right now.
and is it from there, like once you craft the whole season, then you even see if there's even a possibility that you can run it back for a season two? Or is that like, no, is that still in the ideation? Like, we have to draw this out, like all
Three,
of the
four, five
seasons before we
seasons.
even get into this?
Yeah, if you're shopping a series, then it would be wise for you to plan it out a few seasons ahead, but
Right,
not in as much
right,
detail because you don't want to spend a lot of time on something that is going to change. But
right,
at
right.
least that's the way I think. So there are some that would probably, outline each episode of each season all the way out to 5 seasons if you want to. But I outlined each episode to first season, and then I sort of envisioned the season arc for season 2, 3, 4, 5. The
Okay.
season arc. So we
Oh,
can really get to
yeah.
episode level.
Right.
Um, Going back to the question, like I guess the question of good structure, I would ask if there's somebody that's like an aspiring writer, you know what I mean, or aspiring filmmaker, what would you suggest they watch to, really get the idea of like what a story should look like in a film?
Like a film that's a good example of.
Of like whether it's current, whether it's old, like what's something that you think really follows good
Uh-huh.
structure that, or even that maybe that you learned from. I know you mentioned This Is Us, but is there anything else that
Right,
comes to
that's
mind?
I'm studying that for series, but yeah, for series and for features, it's sort of a different feel. But
Mm-hmm,
if you're
mm-hmm.
talking about feature films, um, story structure, one of my favorite films is The Matrix, and
Word,
that one
word.
follows 3 act structure to the T. Um, what's the one called? Parasite was a crazy movie.
Yeah, it
and
was.
and and that's a movie that has a strong midpoint. If you're confused about what a midpoint is, go watch Parasite. When the midpoint hits you in the mouth, it becomes a whole different genre. So
Yeah.
Parasite is a really good one. Right when I don't want to when the old housekeeper rings the doorbell, that's the midpoint for that film. Big shift.
Okay.
So go watch that movie, and when that happens,
I need to go. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch. I haven't seen
go
Parasite.
watch
I've definitely
Parasite,
heard
brother.
great things before.
When it hits
I
you in the mouth,
definitely
it's a
gonna go
whole
see it.
different movie. So I studied that one to. I watched it like 3 times to just sort of feel the first half, and then the second half of the
Mm,
film. That one is a really unique example. So I guess you can't really study that as something you could put on everything, but just the concept of a midpoint
Mm-hmm.
shifting the film
Hmm.
That's a good example. So I studied The Matrix a lot.
One of those deserved winners.
Yeah, brother, that
Yeah,
was a great movie. But yeah, that's a really good
yeah.
example of midpoint. Also, there is a YouTube channel called Behind the Screenplay. That's not it. Something the screenplay. I've forgotten it now. YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah,
Go on YouTube,
great place to learn.
and a lot of my film knowledge comes from YouTube University. So, uh,
Yeah,
Facts.
facts. Yeah, that's actually another great
We're
question. Where do
fond
you?
attendees, man.
Yeah, we're YouTube University attendees for sure. What are some of the places that you go to learn from?
I think it's called Behind the Screenplay. That's oh no, Lessons from the Screenplay. That's what it's called.
Lessons
Lessons
from
from
the
the okay,
screenplay.
Yeah, go
cool,
to Lessons
cool.
from the Screenplay. They like to break down stuff really deeply, and I think they have a podcast too. So I think that's called Beyond the Screenplay.
Nice.
So Lessons from the Screenplay was one that I studied from quite a bit. In terms of
Yeah, I
getting,
know you mentioned Save the Cat
yeah, yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
That's a book I've read a couple
Save the
times.
Cat.
Great book.
There's
Yeah,
a couple of those. There's Save the Cat goes to the movies. Save the Cat. There's a bunch of series. You know, they did that with
yeah,
Ghostwriter. Robert McKee's story is a good book to dig into. There's a couple of screenwriting books that I have not gotten into yet, but that I plan on.
hmm,
But you know, you can
okay,
always. There's always room to learn, man. Always room to grow.
Have
yeah.
you have you ever like read the screenplays of actual
Oh
movies?
yeah.
Like, have
Yeah.
you do you learn
I'm
like
sorry.
do you like get into the flow of that and be like, wow, like this is crazy,
Yeah.
or have you ever seen a screenplay like if you read it and then they're like, man, the film didn't translate how maybe I thought it would have, like the screenplay if you would read this, like,
Yeah. If I missed saying that, my apologies. That's you got to do that.
oh yeah, no, you good.
You
I'm just
that's
curious.
that's uh, that's part of once you get into like YouTube University, once you start self-studying and reading books about it, everyone says you got to read screenplays. And now that everything's on
Right.
the internet, what I would say is once you start Googling screenplays, you should know what a real screenplay looks like because there are some sites that sort of spit out something that is like a screenplay, but it's something that someone typed and it's just not the screenplay.
Right.
So I would not study
Hmm.
those because you're trying to learn format and you're trying to learn, the type of language you would use in order to get something sold, or if that's your goal, or to get
Right.
something
Right.
produced if that's your goal. So I would make sure that you have the right format when you download them. But anyway, Google screenplays of films that you know well, so you can see what they look like on paper. Look up stuff that you haven't
Hmm.
seen yet, and read them before you see them, so you can see the movie in your mind, and then go watch the movie and see what they did differently. But for some of them,
Okay.
if it's a film that you're familiar with, print out the screenplay or have it on your iPad or whatever, and watch the movie with the screenplay in your hand. Read along and see what
Wow.
the actors may have changed. Try to guess what the directors may have changed. In order to get it on screen. Sort of, you have to reverse engineer some things, but that's part of self education.
Right, right, right. Damn. Yeah, no bullshit. I'm definitely gonna have my lineup as soon as I get some time.
That's a
Yeah.
fact. What are there any screenplays that you can remember that stuck out to you when you were either in your learning stage or recently?
No, I'm not too good at that.
Yeah,
And especially since I'm
because you read so many, I
yeah,
bet.
because I read a lot, and I have not read a screenplay twice, where I'm just trying to study
Mm,
structure. So I do
yeah.
Right,
because I'm studying writing and directing at the same time.
right.
I try to read screenplays, obviously, but it's more. It's like being able to study both at the same time when you're watching the film, so you can see how it was executed and how it was written. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that since everyone's so different, and because the genre, there's so many different genre in filmmaking, and there's so many different rules that people have, and there's rules that people break on purpose. So I think that it's really important, just in the same way that I would teach someone a musical instrument. I don't like teaching people traditional Bach. I don't like doing that.
Right,
If you're learning an
Yeah.
instrument, what song do you like? Let's learn how to play that song. So that's just the
right,
Oh,
way I
that's
right,
teach.
right.
facts.
So I think it would be better to uh, look up the screenplays of films that you personally like, It doesn't matter what I look at. You should go if you like Napoleon
Yeah.
Dynamite. Go find a screenplay for Napoleon Dynamite and
Right.
read
Right.
that script. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Definitely
fact.
do that.
You know, I was gonna ask him, what's your favorite genre, and does that switch up in terms of actually making and viewing something? So, like maybe you prefer to shoot this genre, but in terms of like a consumer, you'd prefer to watch this type of genre, or is it one and the same for you?
Um, I my favorite genre has been sci-fi for
Okay.
years, but
Okay.
and if you watch 4 Points, there's a little bit of it in there. And
Right.
4 Points is on Tubi, ladies and gentlemen. Or if you'd like to watch it,
Yeah,
Hey,
for
there
sure.
you go.
if you'd like to
Yeah.
watch it
Uh
without
huh.
4 points
commercials,
on
Links
it's
Tubi.
will
on
be in the show notes.
it's on
4 points on
yeah,
Tubi.
it's on Tubi. It's on Quelly TV if you like to watch it without commercials. Anyway, there's a little bit of sci-fi in that, but in order to dig into sci-fi the way that I would like to, I need a higher budget. I need more
That
money.
budget. Yep.
So that's the reason why a
Yep.
lot of my content is more drama or dramedy because I can afford
Mm,
to film those. But I
Mm.
would like to
right.
make some sci-fi, but I need a higher budget for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the directing real
Hmm.
quick. What do you feel like you're having to focus on the most or improve upon the most in like for yourself, you know what I mean? As far as the directing aspect goes, because I know you said earlier in the conversation that you wished you could focus more on that or like only on that. But because of budgets, you have to focus on a lot of things. So I'm curious to know what aspect of directing are you? I don't want to say having the most trouble, or maybe having the most trouble with. Like, what are you trying to get better at as far as directing?
Well, um, the truthful answer to that is I don't know because every time I'm directing,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
always doing two other things also. So I'd like to
Mm,
have the ability to be able to just direct so I can, breathe in that space, and then I would be able to explore some
yeah,
different
Mm,
things. Like,
mm,
for instance, um, directing actors in an emotional moment, I might be able to see some different
mm,
things on set if I'm not also focused on the other tasks that I have in
yeah,
my head. So I don't really know what I'm missing. I hope I'm not missing a lot, but I think there's some things in actors' performances that I would like to be a stronger partner with them
mm.
on, and I'd be stronger if I didn't have to focus on other things.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's real.
I hear that. Um, Definitely, we're coming up on time, and I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I know you got something that you got to get to right after this, so um, really, I just want you to be able to use this time to kind of tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you. Definitely 4 points on Tubi TV, and
Quelle,
what
Quelle. Yeah.
Quelle
Yeah,
TV is that the other
yeah,
one?
Quelly. If you want to watch it without advertisement, it's on Quelly.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No ads, no ads.
Yeah, and then
Go
you
Quelle.
got a bunch of series or a bunch of content. You got a couple series, a couple shorts, like the monologue you did with Brooke, and
Yeah,
that he was a part of. That's on
that's
YouTube,
right. That's right. So my
right?
channel is just my
Yeah.
name,
Yeah,
Cadell Cook. So if you look up Cadell Cook on YouTube, you run into my channel. So you'll
yeah.
see a lot of my content there. My website is arcadellcook.com, and I'm on Instagram, Cadell Cook. Hit me,
Okay.
hit me up, baby.
All
Real
right.
simple.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Well,
And again, man, we appreciate you taking the time
yeah,
to do
very
this.
appreciative,
I
bro.
learned a
Thank you.
lot. You know
For
what I'm
sure.
saying?
Master
Yeah,
class.
for
And one of them
sure,
episodes you gotta tell people, yeah, run it back several times.
for
You know what I'm
sure.
saying? Catch it all.
And hopefully, when the comedy, I mean the Christmas drama is, you know what I'm saying, underway and everything like that, we
Yeah.
can have you
Right.
back on to talk about
Oh yeah,
that. And I'm do a part two.
Right.
But
absolutely.
yeah, man, enjoy the rest of your day,
Yeah, we
and
appreciate it for
we
sure.
appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Early.